It's been a while since we've had a Mazda engine on the stand, and the last Skyactiv I tore down, I missed the failure mode. You guys caught it. I missed it, including the editing. I missed it in the editing too. So this time I picked the Skyactiv engine to tear down with the biggest, most obvious failure that we've had in a really long time, because there's a connecting rod hanging out of the block. This is the engine out of a 2017 Mazda Cx3. It's a 2-liter Skyactiv, and unfortunately, Mazda doesn't put any VIN or anything that I can track back to a vehicle to then run a Carfax on and find out how many miles are on it. I can't tell you that information because I just simply don't know it. But I do know that that's bad, and we're going to find out exactly how bad it got. This 2-liter Skyactiv engine can be found in the Mazda 3, the Cx3, and the Cx5. This produces 146 horsepower, which it doesn't really matter how much power I say an engine makes. Usually I try to quote what the manufacturer says. Someone in the comments says, my 1983 Corvette produces more. Okay. This isn't a race car engine. None of the cars that this engine came in were designed to be fast. They were designed to be reliable and fuel efficient. And I can tell you they are both of those things. These engines are really inexpensive used, which tells me that the demand is very low. You can buy a low mileage 2-liter Skyactiv naturally aspirated engine for about $600. Same era Kia engine is $2,500. Same era Toyota engine is more expensive, which tells me more people are fixing Toyotas. No, that's not what that means. What that really means is that these engines don't really fail at the same rate that the other ones do. Now, that doesn't mean that someone can't break them. Clearly, someone has done some really bad things to this, and we're going to get this thing torn down to see how bad it actually is. So the first thing I'd like to do is survey the damage, because it's not often that there are parts... Oh, wait. Hey, it's a window. You can see straight through the other side. Not only did someone take the inside parts and put them outside, but they created so much extra ventilation and inspection ports. It's literally everywhere. There's one there, there's one there. And what I really can't understand is, why is all this hammered on? It looks like someone went to town with a ball peen hammer or a small mallet. Oh, look at that. Look at that baby inspection port. The other thing I noticed about this engine, besides the fact that it has a genuine water pump belt, is it has a replacement oil pan from 2021. And it has gobs of, like, whole AutoZone's worth of RTV holding this oil pan on. And a CarQuest oil filter. Now, I'm not saying anything bad about the CarQuest filter, because that could be perfectly fine, but this reeks of uh-oh. In a perfect world, we'd see if every engine turned over. It's just because I'm trying to turn it that way. That's clearly why. I think it's locked up, guys. Now, to be fair, I'm pretty sure this engine sat outside for quite some time, so it could simply be rust. Let's pull the plugs and take a look. So there's good news and bad news. Good news is that they're all genuine Mazda plugs. The bad news is that these two look different than these two. Now, I don't see anything bent or smashed. Nothing's been regapped by a piston. But they should all look the same, and they don't. Now, these engines are relatively high compression, 13-to-1. So that could be why we couldn't turn it over. But I pulled the plugs out, so now it should turn over just fine. And I got a slightly larger breaker bar. And I just tightened the bolt a little bit. And I bet if I go the other way, same result. So let's take a look at these intake ports. Not the best looking. Really Not the best looking. Pretty grody. That one looks like it might be... Yeah, that valve's not... Hold on, that valve appears to have been forced closed. Don't want to do that. Yeah, this engine could definitely have benefited from an induction service. Now it's time to peel off the valve cover. Well, that's where the dipstick was. This engine looks like it might have gone upside down. Now to me, since there's a stock number written on this, I would bet that whoever replaced this engine probably swapped the cover over. And I didn't even try to crack this loose. This is already pretty loose. It does help, however, when you get all of the bolts out. Like this one that you guys probably saw the whole time. Didn't say anything. Thanks for the help. Oh, there's a zip tie holding. Someone installed a zip tie right here at the back of the head. Sometimes I swear people just mess with these engines because they know I'm going to end up with them. Wow, that's nice. This is really nice. It all looks good too. I didn't expect this. I expected a whole bunch of varnish and even some sludge, but there isn't any. Not even in the little corners and crevasses. There's nothing. So let's take a look at this thing. I mean, look how nice this looks. Now, I know you can run cleaners through here, and I think people have claimed that some of the engines have been torn down in the past. Someone tried to clean all the sludge out, but I don't think that's the case. There's usually remnants left behind in some of the hard to flush area. Uh-oh. Hold on. Right down there, it looks like we got a little bit of bass boat paint. Looks like someone's been painting for gold using a cylinder head, but it's probably brass and copper and aluminum. That's the only signs of trouble. That's it. The rest of this is nice. Now the next thing I'd like to do is start dismantling the timing cover, but the first thing we have to do is remove the belt. And you can see that there's no tensioner. This is a stretch belt. I'm not a fan. I hear they're a lot of fun to install, but all you need is one of these special tools, I think. Yeah, that's how you do it. You just stretch it till it breaks. So the Skyactiv engines essentially achieve Miller cycle by using cam timing, and they do that using this electronically controlled variable valve timing. So we're going to pull this actuator off with the right size socket in a second, and then we'll start stripping the timing cover. That might be one of the few sellable parts off this engine. Next, we'll get the crank pulley off. I think we tightened it too much. I also said I was going to buy a new impact. Let's get the big one. Keyed. See, Mazda went back to keyed crankshafts. When they were in cahoots with Ford, they had keyless crankshafts, and everybody says, oh, it's so much better. For the accountants, maybe. Now we have a few bolts to zip out of the timing cover. Nope, that one didn't have to come out. I knew one of them had to stay. That one's unhappy. So we got one that they used a breaker bar on. All right, see if we can get this out here. I don't know what the deal with that was. It's out now. Wow. Let's go ahead and tap the timing cover off. We got it. Something is unhappy down here. Yeah, there it's off. Well, that's... So, do you guys see the problem? Because there's problems. I did not expect to see that. This just got a lot worse. So this is pretty bad. It's got a broken timing chain. Wait, it's broken? Yeah, it's definitely broken. And I just ripped a link in half. And it looks like part of the broken link is jammed on the sprocket which runs the balance shaft and oil pump. Well, that would explain why it doesn't turn. Although, with a broken chain, it should still turn. I have so many questions. You could clearly see somebody was in here. Look how much RTV there is. This is factory, so they did a great job at cleaning up the original. Or maybe they just didn't pull the timing cover off. But I can still see some original sealant right there. Yikes. Sometimes you get what you pay for, folks. These cheap shops aren't always your best option, although this could have been a DIY repair, so you don't really know. Don't have a history. Don't want to jump to conclusions. That might be a good mat someday. So the broken chain boogered up the timing cover, of course. And, I mean, I don't know if this had any value anyway. But I think this is going to end up in a scrap bin now. I mean, it would still function, but selling one of these parts that's damaged cosmetically, most people don't opt to buy that stuff. Well, while we're here... Wow. So there's quite a lot of metal transfer from whatever happened to this. Could be the broken chain, could be some other issue. However, I don't think that does any damage to the guides. I think the guides perfectly fine. I don't think that whatever happened to this engine affected these at all. Next, we're going to work on the high pressure fuel pump and fuel pump housing. We're going to start with the high pressure fuel line. Next, we'll crack the high pressure fuel pump bolts loose. Whoa! That had some force behind it. Let's pull the lifter out. That looks pretty good. Next, we'll pull the vacuum pump off the housing. Hold on, we're screwed up here. Much better. And now the high pressure fuel pump housing. Just give it a tap. That's all it takes. Next, I'm going to remove this coolant pipe. There's some coolant. Not the color I was expecting. Now before we go camming the cam craps loose, we need to pull the variable cam timing solenoid out and see what that looks like. Sometimes these will collect some suspended bearing material in the oil, but I don't see it on this, but I also don't see any screens. Now we're going to remove this guide and these oiling lines so that we can get the cam caps off. Ooh, that didn't feel good. It got me. Now we are going to crack the cam caps off. Wow. Those are very stuck. Oh, still got that one. Well, that's not good. It's gritty. There's definitely some debris, some metal that's not supposed to be there. They're not all that bad. And the further away from the tension of the chain you get, the better they are. Okay, I lied. Maybe. Do they get worse going this way? A little bit. But of course, most of the wear and damage you'll find on the caps because of spring tension. And yikes. Some of these are really... Look at all that. That's all metal paste. It's like anti-seize, but it worked. The engine was seized. Oh, wait, it didn't work. The point of anti-seize is to keep things from seizing, and this engine is locked up. That one looks good, but a lot of these have a lot of metal debris in here. This looks more like, to me, that it was run dry. And when you look at the camshafts, there's also some wear. Now, the lobes of the cam don't look too bad, so I imagine that the rockers are pretty good, but it's gritty. It's metallic. Metal infused oil. Here's the other cam. Not a good sign. There's actually chunks of stuff there. All right, this cracked some head bolts loose. See how tight these are. Blasted a rocker off. Let's lift the head. I feel like it should come off. Well, that's bad. That's real not supposed to be like that. So the head gasket, I don't see any issues, no deformities. It looks great. But if you'll notice, 1, 2, 3 are at the bottom of the bore. That's not how the crankshaft is made. Something is wrong in the center here because those two are supposed to be at the same location and they're not. And this is where the science comes in. Good. 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 What? Let's take a look in here. Look at that. Heavy scoring on cylinder 1. There's also some water in here. It's clearly the rust that's keeping it from turning over. It's nothing else. There's no other reason why this engine would be stuck. It's just the rust. Ooh, that one's even worse. And it's got part of the top of the crown broken off. Wow. Lots of aluminum transfer on the cylinder wall, both sides. And there's chunks of metal, chunks of the piston are on top of the piston. They don't go there. This one looks all right, can't really tell. And this one, look at how damaged the bores are. Man, we haven't seen bores that rough in quite some time. And the cylinder head has 3 good combustion chambers. This one is bad. It got struck by the piston. It looks like the piston made contact with every single valve. I bet you all of these valves are bent. And it even looks like the piston hit these 2 exhaust valves here. These 2 combustion chambers look like they somehow survived. Now it's time to remove the water pump. Now, these take a lot of force to come off. Although it's stuck together. How are we going to get this? How can we possibly... I'm not strong enough. I have an idea. That looks nice. Spins not... Uh-oh. Look, it's been leaking out of the weep. The weeper's been leaking. So that is a bad water pump. And it's a shame too. So you know what we do with bad water pumps? Here, you run the company now. I hope you buy some good cars. Now it's time to pull the oil pan, and normally I'd roll these engines upside down, make it easier to pull the pan, but I suspect that there will be fragments of abnormal engine operation in the oil pan, so I'm going to pull the pan in its current position while you all can take a look at the connecting rod. I also noticed that there's a starting to hatch in the bed plate too. The amount of sealant on this pan is astounding. All right, that's the last bolt. Blue. I feel like this is going to be quite... I think it's too much RTV. This is very glued. Still got some oil in it. Gotta be careful, I don't want to make a big mess. Did I miss a bolt? I did. Well, that makes it a little tougher. How does there... All right, well. Huh. Oh. You know it's bad when it looks silver before I put the light on it. And it looks so much more. Here's the shallow end. That is just... Look how thick that is. And if we move away, you can see there's some chunks. Let's see what that stuff is. Ooh, it's heavy. Well, that's a piston squirter, which can't do much in the oil pan. I'm going to drain this bass boat paint. That looks pretty sweet. I imagine that paint on like some 1964 Impala. You guys would hate me. Also wanted to pay attention to the RTV job. Sheesh. There is such a thing as too much, and this is well beyond that point. Now, got some fragments here. That would have all ended up in places inside the engine I didn't want them. All right, so I noticed something here. If you noticed, this oil pan has been prepped, which means that someone's taken a roll-lock disc to clean it up and needed to prep it for fresh RTV. Yet, the oil pan, there's it, has a 2021 sticker and the car was a 2017, which means that the original oil pan was replaced, and then this one was installed, and then this one was removed again, and then someone cleaned it up and then reinstalled it, unless some smooth brain decided to take a brand new pan and zip it anyway, which makes zero sense. So I think that this engine's it's been into by someone that didn't really fully grasp the concept of RTV. Well, now it's time to turn this thing upside down and see what the bottom looks like. I have some hope. Oh, we're making a mess. It's okay, we've got pig mat to clean up. I hear loose stuff inside the engine. I think I'm just going to stop right there. First thing I'm going to do is remove this oil filter. We can leak. I just anticipated always leaking. Hey, watch out, guys. You're in the way. Oh, it's got nice, fresh-looking oil. A little late there, bucko. We'll cut that open before the end of the video. Now, this is the oil pump, and this is the balance shaft cassette that's driven off of this chain. So what we're going to do, and I can't really... I'm just going to have to zip some of these bolts out so that I can pull this off. I think we're going to try to get the oil pump off first. I think that's the order of operation. And to do that, I said to do that, there, see? Now we have easy access to this. Let's see if this spins over. Ooh, that feels terrible. Let's spin it with the impact. All right, that's enough playing. Let's just get this thing off. Well, before I take the oil pump apart, I just wanted to show you how much debris was on the top of it. There's going to be problems inside this thing, but the first thing I'd like to do is remove the pickup, which I think there's a screen in this area. So we're going to get that unbolted and try to shake its contents out. All right, let's see, is this hiding anything? Oh, we don't even need to do that. I can see it, but this... Uh-oh. That came out of there, and that's RTV. Uh-oh.
Things are starting to make sense.
Oh.
Now we're getting somewhere.
I think we got the majority of it out. So this is the mess that came out of there. That's RTV. That... And don't mind that. That's not RTV. That's metal from that thing. But look at all of the shards. That's RTV right there. Well, that's just metal. There's definitely RTV in the pickup. And it's still like silvery pasty. It's still terrible. Now let's dismantle the oil pump. It worked. It's not dumb. If it works. Is that all of them? Is there any bolts on the other side? Nope. Tap it apart. Oh, this is terrible. Oh, it's all gritty. This is just such a mess of ick. This is not what you want to see when you pull an oil pump apart. This is a bearing pump now. There's more bearing in here than probably on the actual connecting rods, I would guess. That's, you can definitely tell there's some damage there. This is all so gritty. It's all painted in this gray, what used to be oil fluid. I can't even wipe it off. What? Let me see if I can clean this off so I can show you guys what this actually looks like. So this is it. It's clean. Look at the damage. It's incredible. This is one of the worst looking oil pumps that we've had that wasn't shattered. This is so much damage. And the reason it looks all dull is because it has been machined out of its the machined finish that created this is ruined from the amount of material run through here. It's not supposed to be that gray color, but that's just all of the aluminum being impregnated into this and destroying this. It's incredible. That's a bad one. All right, now we need to get this other chain off of here. Let's get this tensioner out of the way. And this, of course, is a bearing pressure fed tensioner. Wait, what was that? They made it so I can't shoot this across the shop. It doesn't even, that's one hell of a spring. I just wanted the sound. Now we can remove this chain. The sole surviving chain, although something tells me that this chain's going to have a wee bit of damage. And let's slide this off. Oh, we got an extra, an add-on. Wow. So this is amazing. This is attached somehow. I can pull that part of that off, but that is part of the gear. I don't want to put any force in it because it would ruin it. You can see the edge of this gear has damage. Sorry guys, I don't know what I'm doing. Look how incredibly perfectly stuck that is. Now I have a theory that the engine may still turn over now that the chain that drove this is removed or disconnected from the crank. Let's try to turn this over. Okay, so it does, but it's bad stuff is happening. Oh, see, we're fixing things. Nope, that's it. So it doesn't have a full range. Oh, hey, we're fixing it. There's nothing wrong with this. Just needed some ATF. Now let's see if the crank turns over. I'm sure this will turn over just fine. No. Nope. Now let's remove this balance shaft assembly. That seems really unhappy. The bolt's bent. And broken. Where's the end of it is, I think that it's broken. That one won't come off. Ah, there we go. And I think we have two 10mm bolts right there. Oh, this will just come right off. Oh. Well, that's not good. So for now, we're gonna just focus on this thing. Look at the field of debris. It's everywhere, and look how many huge impacts. This is all beat in here. It looks like the gears have damaged. I think this is probably what was locking that part of it up. So obviously the next thing is going to be, let's take this apart. Wait, is this 12? I just used a 13 to pull that off. Now, will this come apart easy? Oh, yeah. Cake. Wow. Wow. Well, where do we start here? I mean, look at all the bearing millings in here. The bearings in this thing are just destroyed. And when we go to this, there's your impacts right there. More of the same, but the really impressive thing, the balance shafts. It chipped the gear, and on this one, it really did some damage. I mean, that is just, it did that while it was running. I mean, obviously, multiple impact marks. These would be pretty cool desk ornaments, don't you think? I've been saving too much stuff lately, so if you guys want to buy anything, whoa, you stay right there. Don't want anything to happen. And then the block. I mean, the volume of metal shards It looks like part of a rod is jammed between part of the crank and the bed plate. It looks somewhat normal for these two cylinders, although those two rod caps look discolored, but not like this. This is absolutely incredible. Oh, look what we got hanging out in there. So because of the condition of this, I think the next step is going to be to unbolt the bed plate. I see no other option. I can unbolt that one rod and piston. That doesn't do me any good. I think I'm just going to unbolt the bed plate and we'll work down from there. All right, first let's unbolt all of the perimeter bolts. No? Okay. I think I might have to unbolt. Yeah, I'm just going to unbolt the oil filter adapter here. And then there was one bolt right here. I didn't see that before. Let's get all these loose or out. Now for the tight main cap bolts. Now these are pretty tight. Let's use the old breaker bar on them. Yeah, they're tight. They're definitely tighter than the head bolts. Those two weren't as tight, and I wonder why. That one wasn't tight at all. Think it had something to do with the explosion? Oh no! So this bolt is bent. Oh yeah. That one's unhappy too. See the difference on how that sounded? All right, let's get blue over here. Start prying and see if we can't separate this. It does not work that way. Suppose I could pry off the crankshaft. There's really nowhere to pry on this thing. Oh, it's at the very back of the block, and I have no access to that because of the engine stand. Nope. How will we ever get this loose?
That's doing it.
Now the problem really is that there's a part of a connecting rod jammed in here. We're just going to pry off. I don't want to damage the mating surface. I was trying to grab the crankshaft with it. I'm confused. Is it the crankshaft seal? No. All right, well, the pistons will not come down through the bottom of the bore, so this is not really working the way that I want it to. What if try the same thing but with blue? Oh yeah. It's kind of working. Oh wow. That is crazy. That's a first. Oh, look at that crank seal. All right, well, I have 6 bolts left. Basically 3 connect. Wow. I'm just going to show you before I start taking anything else apart because this is amazing. So the crankshaft is already popping out of the block, but look at the main journals. Those bearings are delaminating. Every single main. And this one came off. I guess it's still stuck in the, yeah, I can see it. It's stuck in the bed plate. And looks like the big end of the rod is broken into 2 pieces and stuck in the block. This might be the worst one of the year so far. I mean, I know we're only in February, but this one's going to be tough to beat. All right, so this is only going to be an attempt to get these unbolted. I have no idea if these are going to come off nice and easy or... Oh, that doesn't just come right off. Spun. Spun. Maybe. Yes. Spun. Incredible. Will this come out, please? Not even, it doesn't even want to. It's fine being at home. There we are. Why? This is not a heavy crankshaft. Oh. That's new. It's a new one. Thank you, sir. Wow. It's so much worse the more you look. So it's pretty bad. That kind of moves. That moves. All right, so I'll be able to get those two out no problem. I think this one will move out too, but this is going to be a problem. And here's a better look at the block. Look at how that's deformed. I'm in awe that this isn't a high-powered engine. This doesn't have 8 or 10 cylinders trying to chew the rest of them up. This is just 4, and they're all bad. All of them. Every single one is bad. How does this even happen? Well, let's see what we can knock out of the block. We're going to start at the back. Look, I've had my vaccines. It's going to be fine. It's a joke, guys. That one's bad. Moving on to the neighbor. That one's worse. I'm going to skip number 2. I don't know how this is going to... All right, so I know you guys are going to hate me for this, but I am going to take this out. Now, I know that there was an engine a couple weeks ago, which I will give you an update on at the end of this video, where there was a section of rod stuck in the block. But I am going to get this apart because I have to get the piston out to see what it looks like. It's not just part of a rod. And I'm not going to use the piece of composite pipe or tube stock that someone sent me because, or round stock, because I don't really care about the condition of this. I just want it out. Okay, so that piece, that came out pretty easily, but that's just a part of it. Is that doing anything? Maybe blue can help us out here. Oh, hey, I think we can do something now. Look at that little stubby. I know I'm scratching it. Oh my, wow, this is definitely takes the cake for one of the worst ones that I have seen. I wouldn't say ever, but it's close. This is definitely top 5. So I don't even know how to start this because normally we have the good parts and the bad parts, but in this case, it's all bad. 100% of this bottom end is bad. It's all trash. And if you notice, there seems to be some missing pieces to this rod, which we'll look at in a second. I'll show you where that is. It's stuck on the bed plate, which it is broken. Now I'm going to tap it with a hammer. You can definitely see where the bolt head was. We're going to see if that comes off. I don't want you guys to miss any. Okay. All right. So it wasn't too terrible. Yes, it was. That's bad. We'll get to all this. Let me get everything arranged. All right. Let's go through the rods and pistons because this is wow. So this one had a spun bearing. It's still on the crank. We'll get to that in a second. Look at how charred and dark that is and all the bearing material as it delaminated. And this is cylinder number 2. When is the last time we had a rod this bad? It looks like it was glowing red, but really it was probably out. Ooh, it's raining engine pieces. I think that was exposed to the weather, which is why it's rusty. The end of that was molten. The piston, I mean, it's annihilated. I don't have words. I don't think you could break one of these engines worse than this. I challenge, no, don't blow up your engines, but I challenge you to find a worse blown up, naturally aspirated Skyactiv engine. I challenge you all, because I have never seen such damage on one of these engines. This is incredible. Like, you can't even recognize half this stuff. Normally you can, piece things back together in kind of an exploded view, but in this case, you can't. Cylinders 3 and 4 are the best looking ones, and they are still very overheated. You can definitely tell the discoloration. And the pistons, they're all wrecked. Just absolutely. This is supposed to be much looser than it is. Wow. Absolutely incredible. And this one even has some damage to the fastener, to the rod cap. All right, let's move on. All right, let's try to get the bearings off here. We're doing it. All right, I'm going to take a minute and let's get these off. I don't think that one's coming off. Well, I got all of the bearings out of this thing. That one is welded to the top part of that rod. That's the best looking one of the whole lot. Every single one of these was spun. Every single one. And then when we go to the mains, the center 3 journals were spun. It's just, maybe that one wasn't. There might have been 1 or 2 that weren't. They are rough. To spin several mains and every rod and annihilate the rod like that. Let's look at this crankshaft. There's not a single good journal. They're all trash, especially that one. Now what's interesting is this crankshaft is what was really wedged. Let's see if I can find that part of it. It was definitely one of the counterbalances. They've definitely taken a beating. Look at all the, that's just, it's a shame to see, but it's impressive. I think even the, I think I saw some damage on the trigger wheel. Maybe not. The sole surviving part of the rotating assembly. One other thing I noticed about the crank is it looks like that counterbalance is actually bent this way. And this is the section where that chunk of rod was wedged between the block and the bed plate and the crankshaft. And a better look at the bed plate. It's broken, cracked all the way through. There's that crack. That's why those bolts came out funny. Look at that bolt hole. That's just super impressive. And the damage to the block. Wowie, wow, wow. the block, the bores, they're bad. Tons of aluminum transfer. You can definitely tell a fight happened at the bottom. Wow. Let's check out the oil filter. You can see the oil that's leaked out has a very metallic hue to it, and every pleat is clean. Which, I take that back. There's some slivers of metal, but it's not jam-packed. That's from cutting the filter. It's not jam-packed because for it to be jam-packed, there would have to be oil in it. And there wasn't any. Well, I pulled the valves out, and they're a little bent, but not as bad as we've seen in the past. How do you do this? Tell me, how does this happen? How does it get this bad? Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Maybe this car was a manual, and it was going down the freeway, and the car pushed the engine through itself until it locked the engine up. That's a very valid idea, except for the fact that Cx3s weren't available with a stick in 2017, so that's not what happened. That is not what happened. Now, what did happen is that this engine annihilated itself. I bet it was a super high RPM. I bet they kept their foot through it. They ignored all the warning signs. And I also bet it had no oil in it. I bet it had none. None. Maybe a quart, and it was all in the head, because the head wasn't that bad, but the bottom end, clear signs of starvation. I am so impressed. I think that this is the fourth worst one that we've ever seen on the channel. I think the worst one is the 8-liter Dodge Ram V10, because it did way more damage. It has a lot more power and torque, and it really was worse than this. And then the Kia and the Honda J Series, the Kia V6 and Honda J Series, those were pretty even keel. They annihilated 5 out of 6 rods. But this one, it only damaged one rod, but the level of damage from one rod with 146 horsepower. This is not like some top fuel dragster. This is not some big truck engine. This is not some huge, crazy, high RPM performance car. This is an economy car. It's a small crossover. I'm amazed. Every day I think I have seen everything in the automotive industry, and then I get stuff like this. I don't know how it ran long enough to do this much damage, but it did. It broke the chain. It destroyed the counterbalance cartridge. The oil pump was destroyed. Every part of the rotating assembly was bad. The block. I can sell the high pressure fuel pump and the electronic variable valve timing or cam actuator thing. That is it. Maybe the valve cover, which I don't know if that's worth anything. And that's okay, because I paid scrap price for this. Sometimes I get engines with the intent to sell some parts out of for reuse. And then sometimes I get engines for scrap price with the intent to get a hopefully good video out of it, which I hope this video was good. Now, if you'd like to buy any of the parts out of this thing, do not reinstall them. They are no good, but there are some cool desk ornaments. Man, it's going to be a struggle not to keep all of it, but I will sell anything out of it. There's not enough desk space at our counter. So if you'd like to buy any parts out of this engine or anything else I've torn down, or out of this Westphalia Volkswagen Eurovan, I think it's a 2003, so I think it's the final year, it's not worth fixing. It's a flood destruction title, and it's rotted. It does run and drive, however. I'm going to leave our email in the video description. You can also go to importapart.com. I've been uploading our parts cards every single week. We're getting some pretty cool stuff like this in these days. As always, I hope you really enjoyed this video. I love all the comments, all the feedback, and even the criticism. I love it all, and I'll catch you on the next one. So I know I said I'd give you guys an update on the block. This is the L84 that I tore down a few weeks ago. As you can see, I have hacked it up. I know every now and then I get a comment in the videos that they call me a hack. Yes. In this case, yes. And here is the section of block with the rod stuck in it. So I guess what my plan is, I'm going to take it to somewhere to see if they can put this on like a belt sander and kind of square this up and smooth the rough edges. There are many rough edges, and I probably could have done this better. This is the first time I've sawed a block a section of block out. So bear with me here. Still pretty neat to see how that looks. That is definitely going to go on the desk when it's done.